Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, an honor to speak in front of everyone and just kind of share some of the knowledge that I have about the senior living options and resources available. Just to start, some of the benefits that we'll learn about today with the options and resources are considering each of the options: independent living, assisted living, personal care homes, home care, home health, continued care, retirement communities. There's such a wide variety of options. We'll kind of differentiate each of them so you can understand them and understand what might be the right option for yourself if you're looking for you or a loved one. One of the things I always like to relate to is the paradox of choice. I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept, but it's by an American psychologist, Barry Schwartz. And this concept really talks about when you give someone too many options, too many choices, it's just too many decisions. We're all very busy, so we just tend to shut down. It seems too overwhelming, so it's just easier not to make a decision and start your research on a process because you're just giving too many options. So relating that, something maybe we can all relate to is kind of when you go to a restaurant such as Cheesecake Factory and you look at their menu and it's 20 pages long and you can't decide, what do I order? And then whatever you do order, you look to your neighbor next to you and think, well, I wish I would have ordered that instead. So you end up being dissatisfied with the choice that you made because you're thinking about what if? What if I would have made a different choice? And then it comes time to order dessert and you think, well, what cheesecake should I order? There's so many choices. And you end up getting the Oreo, but then you think, well, maybe I should have had the fudge. So it's providing too many options and choices for someone basically just lessens the results, and you feel less satisfied with the choice you actually make. So relating that to senior living options, there's over 240 independent assisted living senior living options in Atlanta. So where do you start? What option is right for you or helping someone kind of navigate through this process? Well, I think part of that is just determining what are the key factors in helping navigate through this. So we know the biggest one is generally cost. What is someone's budget? That really starts out where to determine, but also considering what are the personal care needs. So what type of assistance do they need? Do they need independent living or assisted living? And we'll get into the other options as well. But other key factors are going to be location. Do you want to stay close to home? Or is it more important to drive a little bit further because you can get more for your money? Also looking at age restrictions is a big one. If you have someone who's maybe 54, a lot of the communities have age restrictions of 55, 62, 65. So this is a really good question to ask when you're doing your research. Also, if activities are important, social needs and interests, that's something that you'll want to look at when you go into community to ask, what do they offer? Take a look at their activity calendar. Is it a lot of outings going outside of the community, or are there a lot of internal things such as bingo? We all know there's always bingo offered, right? But what else do they have going on that would interest your loved one? So also transportation needs. You know, a lot of the communities, whether they're independent or assisted, they're going to offer transportation, but it's a great question to ask. How far do they transport? Is it 5 miles? Is it 10? And do they charge? Some of it's a complimentary service, and others charge $25 an hour. So that's also something to keep in mind. I thought this was a really great article and something that was very interesting from the Wall Street Journal. And it really talks about, and this map shows you the average cost in assisted livings from state to state. The average cost in Georgia is a little over $3,000, and the average stay in an assisted living is 28 months. That's an $87,000 purchase or decision. So what I always say to the clients that I work with is, when is the last time you've made an $87,000 decision and didn't do your research? Don't wait for a crisis to happen and then you're in the moment and you hurry up and you just make a decision. You don't know if it's the right one or the wrong one, and you're overwhelmed with the options available. Also, if you look in the right-hand corner, I know this is kind of hard to see, but also this article really talks about from 2008 to 2012, there have been more assisted livings that continue to increase and rise in cost while adding some additional services included with their base rent. So there's also fewer facilities that are adding services and going down in cost. We know the costs are continuing to rise. But this goes to tell you that one of the key questions that you should ask when looking for a personal care home or assisted living make sure you understand their care and pricing models. So what do I mean by that? In Atlanta, I can tell you there's 5 pricing models in this market. So if your loved one needs assistance, some of them price their care all-inclusive, meaning you pay one rate and you receive any amount of care, and you know what that flat rate's going to be every single month. You have others that are a point system. So for example, if mom needs assistance with bathing, they will ask, well, how many times per week does mom bathe? Does she need hands-on assistance with bathing or just standby assistance? So depending on that service and how often the service is received, they assign a certain number of points to that. Multiply the points, and then they come up with a charge. But the more services you receive, the points continue to tally up, the cost continues to rise. So that's something I think very important to understand if you move to an assisted living that has that point system for their care plans. And actually, it's a real benefit for someone if they're pretty independent and maybe just need assistance with medications. That's a great program because you're not paying an all-inclusive rate for services that you are not receiving. You also have communities that charge a la carte. So for each service individually, you can pay individually for that. You also have outside contracted services where you can bring in a provider to provide those services for you as opposed to getting those through the community and using their care staff. And then you have multi-tier all-inclusive, where maybe you have 3 different levels that include a certain amount of care for each of those levels. So again, lots of options just when it comes to the care factor of assisted living. So be sure to ask those questions and understand that. Getting into kind of individually the different options available, starting with senior apartments. So a senior apartment would be good for someone who's completely independent. A lot of the senior apartments are going to be age restricted. And a lot of them don't necessarily provide the transportation. It's just generally just like an apartment complex. And then you also have independent living communities. These are also going to be, some of them are age restricted, not all. Most of these communities are going to offer a lifestyle. So they're going to differentiate from assisted living because they don't have the care services necessarily on site provided by the staff. However, this, as I said earlier, you can bring outside contracted services into an independent living. And this tends to be a less expensive option. So they're going to offer different types of meal plans, maybe 1 meal a day, maybe 2, some as many as 3. So that's a good question to ask. If it's 1 meal, or the additional meal is going to cost a little bit more. So you'll want to know that. And also some of them are going to offer different amenities on site and also offer services such as housekeeping and laundry as well. So each of them do vary. And then you have home care. Home care is a great option for those that want to stay in their home, or if you're living in that senior apartment or the independent living, to utilize those home care services. So it's just kind of a different option if someone wants to stay at home. You may not have the socialization and engagement with other residents in a community being at home, receiving those services. And then you also, in home care generally is private pay, but they also, there are some programs out there that do pay for home care as well through the state. So, and then you have home health, which is generally used on a short-term basis when you have an order from a physician to receive services. And maybe that's physical therapy, occupational therapy, also assistance with bathing. So that's something to think about as well, differentiating the home health, which is generally covered under Medicare or insurance. And then you have home care, which is generally private pay. What I'm going to spend most of the time talking about today is really differentiating assisted living and personal care homes. So as some of you may be aware, these 2 type of facilities, most recently there have been some new regulation changes. Most of the facilities have always kind of been known as assisted living, even though their licensure was personal care homes. So really understanding these, a personal care home is going to be a community that really cares for 2 or more adults and provides housing, food, and care services available. For someone to be appropriate and really their needs be best met in a personal care home, they really need to be able to self-preserve. So what does that mean? Be able to kind of care for themselves. If they can get themselves out of the building in an emergency situation, get themselves to safety. So can they propel their own wheelchair? Can they ambulate, walk? When can they assist with a self-transfer? Are they able to do that on their own? safely. So I think that the biggest concern in a personal care home is, can they get out? If there was a fire, could a resident get themselves out to safety? Also, it's more in a personal care home, they're really providing watchful oversight versus when we get into assisted living, we'll talk about they're really staffing according to the residents' needs in the community to making sure that they can care for them hands-on. So an assisted living is going to be 25 or more residents in a community. Okay, and they also have the ability to administer medications versus just assist someone with their medications. And they can also have the ability to assist with self-preservation. So if a resident cannot propel their wheelchair, they cannot ambulate or walk, they cannot self-transfer, the staff have the ability to go ahead and help them with that. And this really allows the residents to be able to age in place longer and receive these services and not necessarily have to go to a nursing home just because they cannot propel their wheelchair or bear weight. So, also, some additional options you may have heard of is a CCRC, Continued Care Retirement Community. This option is going to be a facility that is kind of on one campus that they offer independent, assisted living, and a nursing home all on the same campus in the same facility. So you can have that continuum of care and age in place, which it really offers the convenience and knowing you have peace of mind that you don't have to move every time that you need more services and your needs increase, as that may happen in the independent living or assisted living or personal care home based on what your needs are. Also getting into talking about nursing homes, there's two different types of nursing homes. You have skilled nursing facilities, which are mostly utilized for a resident. Maybe they have a stroke, they have a fall, they break their hip, and now they need to go to physical therapy. So they go to a skilled nursing facility for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. Their insurance or Medicare covers that, but it is a short-term solution to getting them well from something that has occurred. Then you have a long-term care nursing facility and you can pay privately in the long-term care nursing facilities, or generally they accept Medicaid as well. And they're going to, for someone who needs long-term skilled nursing services. So let's see. Also, just to give you some tips and resources, I would really recommend doing your research, not waiting for the crisis to occur, as we've talked about, and also the resources available in your local community. There are experts out there and people and advisors such as myself that we help you find senior living. Have someone educate you on the options available. Trying to navigate through this on your own it's difficult. I've shown you many different options, very overwhelming. Kind of where do you start and what is the best option for you? So definitely do your research, educate yourself, ask lots of questions, and take advantage of the resources available. So I appreciate everyone's time today, and hopefully I was able to educate you on the options available. Thank you.